Hello, I'm Mary Colbert. Welcome to Dr. Colbert's Divine Health Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you tuning in. You're about to learn some great information. He's talking about high cholesterol.
And high triglycerides.
And high triglycerides. This is part 2. If you missed part 1, you need to go back and watch part 1 because to make sense of part 2, you need to hear part 1. So find that one, watch it, and then come back. So Don, you're talking about, you said that 35% of Americans are battling this? Or people
38% of Americans have high cholesterol. Yes, it's epidemic. Do
you think it's higher than that and people just don't even know
I know
it?
It's higher than that. I would say at least 50% or higher.
I think so too. I sit in the airport and I see people go by and it's like, what has happened to our country? I know I'm not the only one to think that.
Right.
But it is like amazing
Mary,
what's happened.
The high cholesterol, high triglycerides, simply following the obesity epidemic. If you see a big belly, most likely you have high cholesterol,
it's
high triglycerides.
Rare to see a thin person.
Oh, it is. It's
very rare to see a thin person.
That's why the key is knowledge, and my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. That's why I've written these books. And the first time I wrote the Keto Zone about 6 years ago, unfortunately, it was for weight loss, worked amazing for weight loss, but some people, their cholesterol went a little too high.
Yeah.
So I wrote another book called Beyond Keto that literally took most of the saturated fats out and then put the monounsaturated fats in, and all of a sudden, and the fiber, and we reduced cholesterol levels and blood pressure and and risk factors for most every disease with this diet. This is the key.
You know, Don has written over 50 books. Several New York Times bestseller. His books have sold way over millions, 10 million.
Well, that
way
was
over
back 10 years ago.
No, so it's in the millions. Out of all of his books, Beyond Keto is his favorite. I told him that we were talking the other day. I said, out of everything you've written,
that and Brain Zone.
You said Beyond Keto is by far. Yeah, Brain Zone is important, but if people are doing Beyond Keto, they don't need Brain Zone.
You're right.
So it's like Beyond Keto is probably the single most important book you've ever written.
Well, I agree.
And you constantly refer to it.
I do, because that is the key roadmap to losing belly fat and reversing most every disease and preventing most every disease.
What's great about this book, let me see the book, Don. Let me show people so they understand. If you haven't read this book yet, you need to get it. It's real. It's that much. It's not a big, thick book. It is a thin, you could read this on an airplane in one flight.
It's about 200 pages.
And sit and mark through it. And it is chock full of information you've never heard before. He just took the meat of the meat and put it in this book. So there's no way we can put it all on podcasts. If you haven't gotten this book, you need to get a hold of this book. It's real cheap on Amazon. However you can get it, you need to get this book.
Now,
that's important.
We're talking about high cholesterol. Like I said, it's an epidemic. 38% of Americans have high cholesterol. But in my practice, at least 50% have high cholesterol. I see it every time. But I get it down to normal, usually with the Beyond Keto diet or the Beyond Mediterranean diet. Either one of those works, along with these key things I'm going to share today. Number one, we have to get your fiber intake increased. Now, foods that are high in fiber are critical. I personally take my fiber zone. Most Americans, 95% of Americans do not get enough fiber, 95%. And so, again, I take a heaping scoop of the fiber zone twice a day. That's why we came out with a bigger container, because you need more fiber.
We used to have this one.
And this one's good to travel. I travel with this one, but my big one is the one I use, because I go through this thing like crazy. And if I ever eat bacon on the weekend or red meat, I always take a heaping scoop of that fiber zone after.
I've got to do that today for me.
Okay, so number one thing that we want to start doing is eating high fiber foods, or if you don't eat high fiber foods, at least take my fiber zone. High fiber foods include like oat bran, beans. They say that's not keto. Well, right now I'm doing more Mediterranean. If you have to lose weight, stick to the keto portion of the program. But later, you will lose the weight. You will be able to shift over to some beans. Beans are high in fiber. Oat bran's high in fiber. Steel cut oatmeal's high in fiber. You said it takes too long to cook. All you do is you can put water, the steel cut oatmeal, in water overnight. Put it in the fridge, and then it just cooks in a minute, or eat it cold. And that's great for you. It's high in fiber. Oat bran or oatmeal's great. Okay. Also, what lowers cholesterol are nuts. Nuts such as almonds and walnuts contain phytosterols, which block the absorption of cholesterol. So what I snack on is usually nuts. I'll have pecans and walnuts and almonds and macadamia nuts, and that's what I snack on. You say, what about peanuts? That's not a nut, it's a legume. Okay, it'll give you a lot of gas. All right, so caution with peanuts, and eat more of the other nuts I mentioned. Or you can eat cashews, and you can eat pistachios. Those are fine too, and they do help to lower cholesterol levels, especially if you eat it after you eat meat. Now, if I ever eat red meat or bacon, I always take my fiber zone within an hour of eating it, because the fiber will bind that saturated fat and escort it right out of your body, which is great.
I know, it's wonderful.
Or cheese. If I ever get one of these pizzas that's with cauliflower crust, within an hour I'll have my fiber zone. Okay. Avocados also help to lower the LDL cholesterol and raise the good cholesterol, which is HDL. Pectins and soluble fiber found in berries and apples and pears also can lower cholesterol levels up to 10%. Dark chocolate, low sugar dark chocolate, the 70% or higher, can lower LDL cholesterol and protects the bad cholesterol from oxidation. Wow. And that's when it forms real bad cholesterol, when it's oxidized. So dark chocolate's a great little snack, but don't eat too much. Make sure it's low in sugar. And then vegetables rich in pectin include okra, carrots, kale, spinach, and collard greens. Binds to the bile acids and cause your body to excrete much more cholesterol. So those foods help to lower cholesterol, as well as olive oil. And I love olive oil, and I put it on everything I eat, okay?
And he means literally everything. You think I'm kidding?
And I use a lot, too. I use 2 to 4 tablespoons each time I use it, because that's where I get a lot of my calories, and it cleans your blood vessels. It's high in polyphenols. These are powerful antioxidants that lower cholesterol, raise the good cholesterol, and they pull plaque out of your arteries.
I want you to know, the average person, you cannot do what he does on that. You will gain weight. You'd be taking in way too many calories.
That's when you get more Mediterranean, because I have to have this, because or else I'd eat too many carbs, and I don't want to eat the carbs. So I eat the healthy fats and nuts.
I got it.
Now, supplements that lower cholesterol, and I use these every day for my patients. Say if your cholesterol is a little high, I'll put you on I'll say, let's eliminate the 5 food groups that raise cholesterol, which I mentioned the last
right, for time,
that we
going.
did.
Yeah.
And then we put you on my fiber zone, a heaping scoop, twice a day. We find twice a day usually will lower cholesterol by between 10 and 20%.
That's incredible.
20%
that
is
right
about,
there is worth it.
If your cholesterol is over 200, that's about 40 points. They'll drop it down 40 points, which is amazing. I see this all the time. And then another are plant sterols. Now, plant sterols are simply plants like we use forestall, which is the one we use, but you can get them over the counter. And it lowers cholesterol by 7.7 to 12%, which is also good, especially when you combine it with fiber. And a lot of people will take, like our forestall, which contains 600 milligrams of plant sterols. You say, where'd I get it online? You get it online, or you get it from our office. But you take one after each meal, and that gives you 1,800 milligrams, and that's the dose, generally between 1,500 and 3,000 milligrams of plant sterols to lower cholesterol, anywhere from 8 to around 12%. Or some people will take, they'll skip breakfast and do intermittent fasting, take one plant sterol or forestall after lunch and 2 after dinner. It works amazing, brings cholesterol down beautifully. Okay, another natural supplement that lowers cholesterol is berberine. Berberine's been used in China for over 3,000 years. The stuff's amazing, and it lowers cholesterol by 20 to 50 points generally, and triglycerides by 25 to 55 points. So, but it takes usually 500 milligrams twice a day, and sometimes 500 milligrams 3 times a day. Now, if you take too much of it, you'll get diarrhea. So you start low and go slow. Start with just 500 milligrams of the berberine, because it can cause some stomach upset or loose stools, so I don't use that initially. One of my favorites is this red yeast rice called Choleast, Choleast, from Thorne, and you take 1 a day, and this lowers cholesterol typically by about 20%, usually around 20%. which is going to drop it like my fiber. It's going to drop it down about, when you combine those together, about 40%, which is amazing. That works as good as a statin in many cases. So the red yeast rice, just usually the yeast, one a day or one twice a day. And another supplement that really lowers oxidized cholesterol, LDL, really well is citrus bergamot.
Wow, never heard that one.
And now, most doctors don't check oxidized cholesterol, but if a person has high cholesterol, the oxidized cholesterol is one of the worst cholesterol that causes plaque formation. Well, citrus bergamot is like a small lemon or lime, mainly grown in the Mediterranean area, and it lowers the oxidized LDL beautifully. And you take generally 500 milligrams twice a day, and I'll use it for those especially with higher oxidized cholesterol, which is highly atherogenic. Now, you say, what else do you use? Do you ever use a statin drug? Sometimes I'll use low-dose statin meds, but I monitor their blood, I monitor their sugar, I monitor their liver functions. I make sure I put them on CoQ10 at least 100 milligrams twice a day. But also there's other meds that are safer for most people, such as cholestyramine. Cholestyramine is a bile acid sequestrant that was developed in the 1950s. This has so few side effects, and I've used this in people who've had all these side effects to statin drugs, and yet the natural was not lowering their cholesterol enough. So I put them on cholestyramine, which is Questran, 1 scoop twice a day, and I added my Fiberzone with it. And it's amazing how these two work together to bring cholesterol.
I hope you're writing this down because this is
or
great
they can listen to this again. It's cholestyramine. And the other one that helps lower cholesterol that's not a statin is Zetia. Zetia is ezetimibe, 10 milligrams a day, 1 pill. It lowers cholesterol and triglycerides beautifully. And some people can take the cholestyramine and the Zetia, and it lowers it even better. You just can't take them together. You have to separate them by at least 2 hours. And they work beautifully together at lowering cholesterol levels. And yet most doctors never use cholestyramine and rarely use Zetia. But these are two non-statin meds that work beautifully with very few, if ever, any side effects.
That's amazing.
Now, triglycerides. These are blood fats. You say, what's the difference in triglycerides and cholesterol? They both can cause plaque in your arteries. Triglycerides, the higher your triglycerides, the higher your small LDL is and the more plaque you form. Now, you say, what raises triglycerides is different from cholesterol. I told you what raises cholesterol, which is mainly saturated fats. What raises triglycerides are sugar, 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 and sugar. Okay, so mainly sugary foods, refined grains, honey, maple syrup, and fruit juices. That's what raises triglycerides. So refined carbohydrates, think white bread, white rice, white pasta, all the whites, white potatoes, crackers, bagels, pretzels, cereals, white bread, rolls, croissants, corn, your corn tortillas and your bread tortillas, sodas, soft drinks, alcohol will also raise triglycerides. Candy, cookies, pies, cakes, pastries, pudding, ice cream. And now what lowers triglycerides? This right here. The healthy keto diet, I think, is the best thing to lower triglyceride levels. This along with fish oil. Now in your fish oil, you need to get a fish oil containing the omega-3s, EPA, and DHA, equivalent to 100 milligrams per capsule. And you can find this at any health food store. So you want to get EPA, DHA equivalent to 1,000 milligrams, and you take 2 twice a day. If you're taking a blood thinner, do not take that much. You'll have to go to a lower dose, like 2,000. But if you're not on a blood thinner, then this will thin your blood if you take too much. But if you're not on a blood thinner, you're fine. So you take 2,000 milligrams twice a day, and I've seen it drop triglyceride levels 200 or 300 points. It's absolutely amazing, sometimes even 400 points. And then following the low sugar diet, low carb diet, the keto diet, the healthy keto diet, it lowers it normal. Also, fiber. Fiber lowers triglycerides just like it lowers cholesterol levels. So take a scoop of the Fiberzone in the morning and in the evening. And remember, most Americans don't get enough fiber. 95% don't get enough fiber.
And I got to tell you, if you haven't ever tried our fiber, you're going to love it. Once you try it, you're going to love it. It tastes good. It's amazing. It's Mary Colbert tastes good.
I know Mary helped me develop that. We're working on this flavor forever. Yeah. And finally,
this I can do.
We worked with our food scientists, and the berry flavor is the best. It's got a wonderful berry flavor.
Life is just too short to taste and eat things every day that,
Well, I used to
just not
have
gonna do it.
we had a plain that was psyllium husk powder. And Mary said, "This tastes like tree bark," and she was gagging. She says, "No one can take
I'm
this."
not going to do that. That's miserable. Don't make my life miserable.
So I said, if it doesn't pass Mary's taste test, it won't pass the majority of the women. And so now a lot of my patients just love it, and it's fun, and they can actually put cold water in there, and it tastes even better.
Yes, that's the only way I do it.
And you can put it in smoothies too.
And you got to drink it fast. Don't let it sit.
Now, again, we're kind of going between triglyceride and cholesterol. Again, realize the worst thing that causes plaque in the arteries and high cholesterol are your trans fats. Now, these I know I've talked about earlier, but these are so damaging to the arteries, yet they're so tempting. The flesh loves it. So we need to put the flesh under. We need those that are Christ, according to Galatians 5:24, those that are Christ have crucified their flesh with its affections and lusts. Realize this atherogenic fat is found in the foods that you love the most.
Yeah.
It's in the cakes.
You know what the thing is, Don? People have got to become students of reading labels. You know what? If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it.
But Mary, the thing is, it is not on the label. This is
it's not.
No, it's not. Back a few years ago, around 2016, they came out and they said if a product has less than 500 milligrams of trans fats per serving, then we don't have to put, we can put 0 trans fats.
Oh, so they're lying to us.
Exactly. And so a lot of foods have trans fats that you're not aware of. That's why you have to be smart. You have to know these bad boys, or else you're going to clog your arteries up and cause plaque in your arteries and in your brain, and cause, again, high blood pressure and all kinds of end organ damage to your heart, your brain, your kidneys, your blood vessels throughout your body. So you got to know these bad boys. These are the worst. And so realize most of your trans fat products will not list it on there because these food manufacturers are very smart and astute marketers. So they only have to put trans fats on there if it has less than 500 milligrams per serving. And so you got to know your enemy. And trans fats are ubiquitous in processed foods.
I hope some people in the food industry watch this video and you guys get convicted, real convicted, and say, you know what, we've just got to come up with some better food.
Every time you eat a donut, you're usually getting trans fats. And those donuts, kids love them. They have all those sprinkles on them. They have the chocolate on them, but they're full of deadly trans fats. Also, most all baked goods, cakes, pies, cookies, brownies, fudge, all of that generally has trans fats in it.
Even homemade pies, cookies.
Now realize, even when you put the topping on a cake or whatever, if it has less than 500 milligrams of trans fats, they can say 0 trans fat. So you're getting it still, though, most likely. Also, microwave popcorn. A lot of people eat microwave popcorn, usually contains trans fats.
Right.
Whenever I used to eat microwave popcorn, I remember my hands used to literally ache and I'd break out with blisters.
Yeah.
And that was years ago. And I said, Mary, I can't eat this stuff. My body warned me years ago. And
but you can get the microwave popcorn without the butter.
And without the trans fat. You get it plain. Yes, so you can. And so you got to be smart. Frozen pizza. A lot of people are eating frozen pizza, but it generally contains trans fats as well as biscuits, as well as a lot of the baked goods that are in the frozen department. Biscuits and rolls also have trans fats in them.
Right.
Most French fries and fried chicken contains trans fats.
Yeah.
And they taste really good and you like it. But again, the trans fats are there, which are damaging your arteries and setting you up for heart disease. Yeah. And then non-dairy creamers. There's a lot of these creamers that people are hooked on. And again, they may have 0 trans fats, but they have on the label, but it's at least it's less than 500 milligrams.
Is it because they have that palm oil in it, and they have
when they have again, there are these trans fats, hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated. They just don't have to list them if they're less than 500 milligrams per serving. See, and then margarine. Most every margarine has trans fats.
Yeah, margarine has been out of my life forever.
But again, margarine was the old oleo that we eat, and again, it's real simple. So what we have to do is we have to know our enemy. The main enemy for high cholesterol is simply the saturated fats. Now, a little bit of saturated fats are okay, and people are saying, well, are eggs high in saturated fats? No. eggs have cholesterol in them, but it's not the cholesterol that raises cholesterol generally. It's the saturated fats, the butter, the cheese, the cream, the whole fat milk products, the sour cream, the whipped cream, the ice cream. Those are high fat. Custard, high in fat, okay? And then your coconut oil and palm kernel oil and palm oil, and then fried foods, and then your fatty meats.
You know, Don, they came out. I mean, the public they get told one thing, and then you give it 5 or 6 years, and people, you know, they come out and they say, no, that's bad, it's this. You know, they did that with eggs, you know, eggs are bad, and then it's like, no, eggs are good, and then it came, you know, margarine's good, no, margarine's bad, butter's bad, no, butter's good. I mean, I can understand.
Well, it's confusing. That is.
It has been.
It's very confusing.
So the lack of trust of what's being said, and it's just out the window. Because it's like, well, that'll just change in 5 years.
Well, Jesus should be our example.
Yeah.
And that's why back 25 plus years ago, I wrote the book, What Would Jesus Eat? And it's real simple. Jesus simply ate a Mediterranean diet, but a healthy Mediterranean diet. And so a healthy Mediterranean diet should be our guideline unless you're obese. If you're obese, you're going to need to follow a healthy keto diet with a lot of veggies and a lot of fiber. And it'll burn the belly fat off.
You know, years ago when I struggled over this, like you are, because I came from a family, I'm one of 8 children. My father was in the military.
And she still struggles.
I still struggle because when I was raised, you know, as a child, you were just happy there was food on the table. And how dare you ask what is in it or made in it or anything else? You would just be thankful you had something to put in, you know, to stop the hunger. But in the process of through the years of learning with you, you know, as you have researched, you know, I have seen the confusion that people are having. So when I struggled with it, I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, I need you to really help me here because my trust factor is whatever is being told today. Just wait 5 years from now and it won't be anymore.
Right.
And this is what he told me. And this, I think, will help you too, because we all struggle in this area. He said, Mary, it's real simple. I made you to be a living being. You're a living being. He said, when you eat more life, it brings life. If you eat more, this is what he said, how he said it to me. If you eat more dead, it will bring forth death. So for me, I got that in my head. I can imagine the fruits, the vegetables, the animals that God has given us.
The clean and unclean.
The clean and the unclean animals. That was his dietary guidelines. He has it right here. It's right here in his word.
Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14.
He gave us the guide to living a long, healthy, disease-free life.
Sure.
That is his plan. But I got to tell you something. The promises of God in the Old Testament, he had all these things laid out, not to bring man into bondage. This is not to bring you into bondage. This was to bring you into a place of life. Jesus said, I have come that you might have life. And I love the fact that he put that might in there because the might is conditional between your participation and what he tells you. That might
Amen. It's good.
Is your participation with what he has asked you to do. And you do what he tells you to do, and guess what? You will have life, and you will have it abundantly. And that might makes it a condition. It is a condition. There's requirements. And part of his requirement for you to live long and strong in his word, and you think about this, he gave this promise under the old covenant. We're living in a new and better covenant. But under the old covenant, he told the Israelites, do these things and I will remove disease from among you. It'll not be among you. Folks, we are living in a stronger and better covenant. So if we follow the ordinances that God has established that will bring forth life in this word, you too can live in life disease-free.
Amen.
That is his best. And yes, it is possible. It is possible. But it is our job. It's our job to tend to this temple and to do all that he instructs us to do. And I know with all these videos, it just sounds like it's just too much.
Yeah.
That's why he broke it down to me. Eat living food, Mary. Make the majority of your diet living food. We went today for lunch and we made a joke, I ate a BLT and you ate salmon on a salad. But my side...
With olive oil.
Yeah, with my side, I had chopped up watermelon and cantaloupe and a couple of grapes. Now, I looked at that and I go, that's living food.
Yeah, sure.
The lettuce, the tomato.
She had a little bit of living, a lot of death.
Food. I just know I had a lot of living.
You needed fiber. You should have had that fiber afterwards.
I'm still going to do the fiber. I'm not trying to justify it.
You didn't do it within an hour, though.
Oh, well, it is too late.
Too late.
So, but the choices, I think when I sit and eat, I really do it. If you watch me, you'll see. I try to balance out that the majority's living.
Good.
And then if I eat a little death.
A little death.
That's how
Bind it with fiber. Fiber comes a multitude
multitude
of dietary sin.
That, you know what, folks? You got to look at it that way.
It's true.
How
It's
much
good.
death are you putting in you? Because death produces death. But life produces life. And that's what we have in our divine health, our living greens and reds. That'll help bring you into life.
So real important to recap. To lower cholesterol, real simple.
Okay.
Follow my Beyond Keto dietary program. It's in my book, Beyond Keto. And then, again, you can take natural supplements. The one I like the best is my Fiber Zone, lowers cholesterol beautifully. You can take red yeast rice or yeast. You can take citrus bergamot. We list a whole bunch of things that you can do. The biggest thing is really cut back the saturated fats, such as the cheese, the butter, the cream, the coconut oil, excessive MCT oil, fried foods, hydrogenated fats, like we talked about, which are the tastiest foods we see. It's all the baked goods, the donuts, the cakes, the pies, the cookies, as well as the fatty meats. And then the cholesterol just comes down. The fiber binds it. And then, of course, following the healthy keto diet or Mediterranean diet, it's the living food, the olive oil, the nuts, the seeds. The nuts and seeds are natural plant sterols that bind the cholesterol, usher it out of the body. So it's real simple how it works. Avocados help to lower the cholesterol too, as well as olive oil, and then fish, and then, again, lots of healthy fiber. For triglycerides, it's the sweets, it's the sugars, it's the fruit juices, it's all the high sugar foods. Those are the main, as well as the processed white flour, the pasta, the bread, the white bread. If you're going to use it, use whole grain or Ezekiel bread. Minimize your bread, the corn. All of those raise triglyceride levels. To lower triglycerides, real simple. Fish oil, take at least 1,000 milligrams, 2 tabs twice a day. It lowers triglycerides beautifully, as well as the fiber. The Fiber Zone, 1 scoop twice a day.
Fiber. I know you hear it all the time, but it's really important. We appreciate you watching this video, and please go and visit our website, divinehealth.com or drcolbert.com. We have 2 different websites. One's more for the practice, the other's for the nutritional needs. We have a lot of videos. We have podcasts on there. We just have a whole host of stuff that you need to visit and take a look at what Don's doing. He has just made it his life to research and find what he believes are truths and answers to bring you into divine health. That is our prayer for you, is that you and your family live long and strong, be a light in this time that we're living in until Jesus comes back. God bless you, and may you walk in divine health. Thank you.